Very interesting question. Now I'm looking at all of these 21 guys in front of me. There, first figure out who we are. What do we stand for? We influence practice. We have something called management in society. As part of the entire education system, it is also our responsibility to bring out good educators. Actually, be a consultant to industry based on your subject area. Right. What's important is the ability to be patient and resilient. Somebody who is reflective. They're expected to give us a proposal. So how much of the proposal is motivated by their personal experiences, their personal backgrounds, and how did.
Hi everyone, my name is Anita and I'm so excited to be in Mumbai today at SPJIMR, and we are interacting with Professor Sheila Roy, who is working as an associate professor here in the area of operations and supply chain. I'm so thankful to you, ma'am, for accepting our request.
Thank you very much, Anita, for coming here. It's an absolute pleasure. Inkpothub is doing some great work trying to build the entire research culture within India.
Thank you.
It's commendable for management especially.
Thank you. So we have been interacting back and forth online, Zoom meetings and all. I'm so excited that we are meeting first time in person. So I'm really excited to have this conversation. So I was looking at your profile, and it is so inspiring and interesting to see your work. You have done your PhD from IIT Bombay, and you have done your PGP from IIM Bangalore. You have had a long corporate career, and it's been more than 16 years of consulting and corporate experience. So my first question to you is, as an academician, how you are using your experience of corporate life in your classroom?
To answer it, but quite a bit actually. How it actually helps is that the courses that I teach especially are more in the the new retail space, right? So it's around e-commerce, it's around analytics, and then there's a lot of it happening everywhere, and some part of services also. And I think the way it works is, for the last 20 years, if you look at my work ex also, it's been around that space of e-commerce, of analytics. So whenever I'm talking to students within class, it helps to bring live examples of not just theoretical, not just sort of marrying the theory, but also what are the kind of challenges you face when you actually try and implement something, right? So having been there, getting your hands dirty is some of the things that you can kind of bring that to the class. That's one. I think, but more importantly, it's not just my experience, but it is the collective learned experience of an organization. You see friends. I'm in touch with those friends, trying to network, keep in touch with them. Speaking to the subject matter of the course itself, so organizations who are in that domain, all of this kind of helps, because they bring out these these little things, and then when you bring it to class, it just becomes richer. So I try and do that. I hope I have been effective in doing that, but I try and do that in my classroom at least.
So in our informal conversations, you were talking about something called phenomena first learning. What is it all about?
So it's actually, the way I've coined it is the phenomena first approach to my research, right? So, being a practitioner, it's not only just me, but and SPJIMR has many faculty who have been in the industry and are extremely experienced and practitioners themselves, right? And if you see the way they approach research, right, it's what I call the phenomena first approach, which is they'll observe something which is happening in the world, or they'll read about it in the newspapers, and suddenly an idea strikes them, right? So and then they sort of try and develop a research question around that. Now there's an art to developing a research question from the phenomena itself, right, what you are. And there is and therefore there's a rigor in it. You've got to develop the rigor in it. But it always helps, I think, being a practitioner, what it helps us do is we first study a phenomena, or rather we just happen to chance upon a phenomena which seems interesting to us. Some of them we just let go, right? I mean, it's we don't think much about it. Some of them just remain with us, and then you say, okay, why is this happening? What is it? How is it different from what's happened earlier? And the typical research process. So when you do that, you're not approaching it from the voice of a literature. That means you haven't been through the literature. Sometimes you've not even read that literature at all. You're not used to it. But then what happens is that you study it, you see what's happening, you kind of sort of get your hands dirty in terms of trying to collect the data first, figure out what's happening. Then you go back to literature and figure out where is this situated, where can it be framed, and this is the approach that I've taken. So first observe something, go go out and get some data, look at it, and then go look at the literature and do it. So that's my approach to, and what I call the phenomena first approach to
Okay,
research.
it was, I wanted to know about it. Thank you for sharing it in detail. Few months ago, you were also handling the FPM program. So I would like to know about the coursework in detail, like what exactly is the coursework of SPJIMR?
Right. So the team and I, we are out here, and it's good to have started about fresh thinking out here. When we started designing the course, we obviously, the first thing that we said is, okay, what are the kind of subjects that are taught elsewhere in the other institutes. But then we decided to take an approach as, first figure out who we are, what do we stand for. We influence practice, right? That's been our mission statement. So from that point of view, we decided to keep a very, very good balance between the subject level courses, the seminar level courses, and the rigorous, the methodology driven. So we have an optimum mix out there. But what we started also included in our courses is we started doing, we mandate that each students do at least one of the core functional courses of MBA. Right, so even if they may be MBA, we want them to do it because we want them, to be first grounded in the MBA, the management scene, and then they get on to starting to do the methodology courses, intro to research, and then they move on to the methods courses. So the foundation courses take care of a lot of, so at least a couple of subjects which are related to MBA, and then we move on to methodology based courses. We have about a battery of 16 we developed over the years. For the last 5-7 years, we've developed about 16 of them, and but a student is expected to take only 12. And then the seminar courses, which are the most interesting. And one of the interesting things that we did out there again as a team is that we have something called management in society. And why did we have that? It was because our mission statement clearly states that we have, social sensitivity is a big part of who we are. Right. So therefore, when we did management in society, we looked at that connect, and we had a seminar course which is mandatory for everyone. We also stemmed it or based it on social sciences research. So psychology is again another seminar course which we, in the initial years at least insisted that our students take it up. So I think these are the two things that we did over and above the normal, FPM level courses. So that's how our coursework
is designed.
Yeah,
okay.
Is designed.
Very interesting to know, because the coursework is again practice oriented, and the whole vision of the institute is also practice oriented. So I have a compelling question here. So when we talk about practice oriented, students are looking for more in terms of beyond teaching career eventually.
Right.
So how are you preparing students for teaching roles and consulting roles or startup roles?
Okay.
So how are they getting any exposure while the coursework?
So if I look at teaching first, because as part of a society, as part of the entire education system, it is also our responsibility to bring out good educators, right? And SPJIMR has also been known as a very good teaching institute in terms of our pedagogy. And again, I think it stems from being practitioner oriented. We have faculty development programs, and if you look at the say 2016 or 17 batch, they would have sat through at least about 5 to 6 courses of around faculty development, case study research, simulation, so on and so forth. And therefore, for teaching, we prepare them through faculty development programs, and we have a TA-ship program which is structured differently, and I can talk of that later. That is on the the teaching side, right? Consulting side, today in the industry, we need problem solvers, and people are expected to start from what is called the first principles. Any problem today cannot be solved by using previous solutions of previous years, right? So everyone needs to get down to saying that how do I solve problems from first principles? And if you see, the entire research journey is about that. Yeah. Right, about breaking down complex problems into simple ones, and then trying to figure that build that up. So it does, the journey itself would prepare them for from a consulting. What we also, we could encourage them to do is look at it saying that if you take your research and try and build it into a framework which can be sort of taken to the industry and applied, and you're doing cutting edge research, right, then you could actually be a consultant to industry based on your subject area, right. So building that framework or building a model which solves problems of today, and using that framework to connect with the industry, explain what it is about, how it can be different, is again something which encourage our students to do. Again, comes back to the whole practice orientation, I guess.
A very interesting way to explain, in a way that you can do research in such a way that you build those frameworks and use it for consulting solutions. Very nice. You are doing research in operations and supply chain management area, and because you are specific to this particular area, so I am going to ask you the next question. What can be the potential 2 or 3 topics which students can look into operations and supply chain management, say coming 5 years?
Honestly, I am extremely interdisciplinary. A large part of my work actually is in retail.
Okay.
And retail is, there's a buy side and a sell side, which is there's customer facing as well as, the entire operations part of it as well. So my research, goes across both. But what I find interesting in the operations and supply chain area, if you look at operations supply chain, 3 areas, if you read the POMS journals, you read SCM, and if you go back to what they have laid out as, say, the next 10 years, what is the kind of research agenda that researchers should be following. And that's where we also try and figure out what is the world thinking about, right? So we go there. And if you see, there are, 3 interesting things, okay? One is, of course, the subject area. So we know sustainability is big, and supply chain contributes to a lot of unsustainable practices. So obviously, you've got to fix that, So that's big on the agenda, right? And within sustainability, obviously, there is one, obviously, the environmental impact, yeah. The interesting part is also the social impact, and I'll talk about the social one. So that is one in terms of sustainability. With COVID, all of us have realized there's resilience, so supply chain resilience also shows up, and obviously with all the data, digitization, the analytics part, if you ask me to name 3 areas, probably I'll name these, and that's been the talk of town. But what's interesting, if you go through these journals, and if you go to especially supply chain management, I was looking at supply chain management journal and POMS, right? They have a special issue on slavery in work.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
Oh.
Okay. And another in SCM, they mentioned it's called something like an emerging discourse, right? A platform that they have. I forget the exact name that SCM has. And one of their call to action papers, or one of their discourses was around decent work. Okay, so these are the 2. So if you look at it, you look at the social aspect of it. Now, operations management, supply chain was usually a quant jocks game, right? Our research was very focused on, quantitative methodology. So these are obviously going to be the emerging pathways as well. What's also interesting is it's not just these areas in terms of subject matter, but the approach to supply chain management theory building. Okay, so like I mentioned, it was earlier, it has been a very quant focused. But if you see again this emerging discourse in SCM, they talk of different kind of approaches. How can case studies has been a methodology in operations, but other qualitative methods. Apart from taking on data from social media and how that can be weaved in. So emerging data sources. So I think in the if I were to look at from, and I'm not saying this because I'm not I defer to all of these journals, that's where I see it actually emerging. Yeah, it's in this direction.
So who is an ideal fellow SPJIMR for you?
Yeah. A very interesting question. Now I'm looking at all of these 21 guys in front of me. Their faces are coming in front of me, and they're an amazing set of they're really amazing. The way they have grown here. Of course, SPJIMR has a hand in it, but personally, the way they have sort of molded themselves, I think I'll go by 2 things, right? One is, yes, there's curiosity. I mean, I think everyone looks for that in a PhD. But I think what's important is the ability to be patient and resilient is something that we would definitely, be looking at. To be able to take a problem and not be in a hurry kind of to solve it, but actually reflect. So somebody who is reflective. Second is also what's important is again the practitioner orientation, the phenomena. So we do when we talk.
Vision of
SPJIMR, yeah. So we see that how much of what they are when they initially, you know, they're expected to give us a proposal. So how much of the proposal is motivated by their personal experiences, their personal, you know, backgrounds, and how do they develop their research from that is again something that we would look at for an SPJIMR fellow.
Okay, so for the future students, what tips would you like to give to them who are willing to join SPJIMR?
Yeah, I think so. In our application admissions process, we have two components that we ask the students to fill. One is the statement of purpose, and the other one is the research proposal. I think statement of purpose is something that they should focus on. Why is it that they want to do the PhD, and why is it they want to do it in that area, right? And what is it that how they see this adding value to their entire life? That is one. What is a family actually, you know, sort of think about it, and therefore the statement of purpose needs to include the fact that they will be spending 5 years of their life here, right? So therefore, how did they plan to, what's the purpose with which they are coming to SPJIMR? How does their family see it? So that I think is one very important component, and the proposal actually varies, right? We ask you to give a proposal. Now some of them might be early researchers, like, you know, not very savvy with the research process. So we don't expect you to be, you know, literature review, knowing it really in and out. But if you are actually intent on this process, we expect you to do some level of homework and come, right? If you're planning to research in a certain area, know about that area and what's happening, especially in the literature. We expect you to know at least that much. And then your ability to actually be able to analyze, think through, be original about your research questions. These are the things that we would expect.
So Professor, thank you so much for this time, and your inputs are going to be helpful for many other future research scholars. Thank you so much.
It was a very interesting question, and I wish Inkpothub also the very best.
Thank you.
And thank you for coming here.
Thank you so much.
It's great to see you all here. Thank you for watching our work. If you have not subscribed to Inkpothub Media, then please hit the bell icon and subscribe to our channel and support research celebrations in India.
Press the bell icon on the YouTube app and never miss another update.